The word planet comes from the Greek word planetos, meaning wandering star. The wandering stars are 8 specific luminaries in the sky. From the left in the image, Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, and the dimmer and slower Uranus, Neptune and Pluto. This ancient geocentric model was actually pretty close to the truth, and lasted for over 1,000 years before the elite smashed it up. The error here is that each of the wandering stars are actually all quite close to the ecliptic. Each are probable to be a similar distance from the Earth, but correctly here, some are faster than others. Note too that each wandering star has a unique brightness and colour. Another crude way to aesthetically show the wandering stars is here, all close to the ecliptic. Note though that the speeds here are not correct. Each of the wandering stars has its own retrograde motion. Retrograde is a term used to describe the phenomenon of each wandering star stopping and then reversing direction in the flat Earth sky, before continuing forwards again. A famous aesthetic depiction of the wandering stars was from the model from Ptolemy, who died in 160 AD. His model, mocked today by the masses, was actually quite close to what is. This model is close, but each wandering star is actually close to the ecliptic, less of a distance between them. Therefore these bigger circles and orbits and gaps are not correct. Also, it is not certain if the retrograde motions are doing a loop in altitude, or simply going into retrograde at the same altitude. I cannot repeat enough that each wandering star has a unique motion stroke cycle that is independent from all other sky luminaries. These motions, no matter how they are depicted, always present harmonic geometry. We will go into this a little more later. Mercury comes from the Latin of miércoles. It has an English translation meaning Wednesday. Mercury always travels close to the Sun, and due to this, it is the most difficult to see with the naked eye. Here I've turned off sunlight stroke daylight, so we can move forward 24 hours a click and see its motion forwards, retrograde, then back to the same point again. Its repeating cycle taking 88 days to complete. If we look at any astrological chart depiction, all luminaries revolve around the flat Earth in the middle, all close together at the ecliptic. The Moon may be appearing to move quickly here, but it's actually going slower than the Sun, so it falls behind every 24 hours. Mercury stays close to the Sun, passing it, then retrograding behind it. Does Mercury orbit the Sun? Is this a loop, like Ptolemy thought? We don't really know for sure, but it is probable at least sometimes, due to Mercury sometimes not passing behind the Sun, but passing in front of the Sun, 13 or 14 times per century. Known as the Mercury Transit. The next Mercury Transit is in November 2019, then in 2032. This event lasts about 6 hours or so. It's due to some magnetic electro or pranic handshake, akin to a solar eclipse. It is said that Mercury has phases, just like the Moon, a long 88-day cycle to complete the phases. This graphic is crude. I'm again not saying it loops, and this could be drawn as a straight line or an ellipse or a circle, but it shows, like the Moon, the side closest to the Sun is self-luminated. That the 26% phase on the left is bigger than the 51% phase next to it. If these images are trustworthy, this would suggest a looping higher in altitude during retrograde. Venus is from the Latin word viernes, meaning Friday, second brightest light in the night sky, after the Moon. Here we can see the Sun and Moon, Mercury in orange and Venus in small white. Like Mercury, Venus always travels close to the Sun, but is slower and travels further away from the Sun than Mercury, in a slower cycle, ensuring Venus to be the morning star before the Sun, or the evening star after the Sun. This Venus cycle takes 225 days. Out of the wandering stars, it is only Venus and Mercury that have phases. So Venus also appears to get smaller and bigger. So again, it either has an apogee and perigee, or it simply gets smaller and bigger where it is, at the same altitude. Here we can see some esoteric labels for Venus' different phases, known as its underworld cycle. Its descent from the evening star to its birth as the morning star. Again, this doesn't have to be drawn as a loop or orbit of the Sun, it could be a straight line. Her full synodic cycle, from inferior conjunction to inferior conjunction, takes near 584 days, or about 1.6 years. This is due to the interaction of Venus's 225-day cycle with the 365-day solar cycle. Now Venus, whether it loops around the Sun or not, when it conjuncts with the Sun, it creates these 5 points. And these 5 points are in perfect geometry above us. This is known as the Dance of Venus. And these 5 points make the perfect pentagram, fractals in the sky. This was all known to the mystics of the Renaissance period. This is the current Venus cycle within its current dance. Venus also creates geometric patterns with Mercury, the only other wandering star, as well as Mercury, that sometimes appears to pass in front of the Sun. A Venus transit is more rare though. This reoccurrence pattern of 8 plus 105.5 plus 8 plus 121.5 years repeats itself in the catalogue of Venus transits. An example of this pattern is in the transits of 1874, 1882, then 2004 and 2012. Note that Venus appears larger than Mercury when transiting the Sun. Now if one takes a photo from the same location every 24 hours, over 113 years, one sees another dance between the Sun and Venus. One gets an analemma. Here is an analemma from Venus and Mercury. It can be argued that both orbit the Sun. But it may not be the case. Look here. This dot is moving in a simple elliptical path. But if other dots are added, it appears to now go vertical. Vertical up and down, but side to side. It is only elliptical when presented alone, so don't jump to conclusions with Venus and Mercury. The old Mayan Dresden Codex was all about accurately measuring Venus cycles. Mars, Saturn and Jupiter are less complex. They simply move around the ecliptic with no care for the Sun or any other luminaries. They each sometimes go retrograde too, but no phases and no transits. Luminaries in the sky, simply doing their own thing. They say Mars has 2 moons, Jupiter 64, Saturn 62. But there is no evidence these are moons. We can just see a few small luminaries in the sky that hang out with a bigger luminary. There is also no evidence of any rings at Saturn. This animation you should understand more now. Venus, Mars, Saturn and Jupiter have been added, and are moving 72 hours a click. Mars takes 687 days to complete its cycle. Jupiter takes 12 years, and Saturn takes 29 years. Again, due to their retrograde motions, many geometric patterns can be found between these wandering stars. Uranus, Neptune or Pluto, they are so dim and slow, and they were only discovered in recent centuries. They say Uranus has 27 moons, Neptune 13 and Pluto 5. Again, just tiny lights in the sky that hang out. These 3 generational forces simply move around the ecliptic super slow. Uranus takes 87 years, Neptune 165 years, and Pluto 248 years to get back to the same place on the ecliptic, to complete their cycle, to get back to the same place on the ecliptic. Due to points of retrograde over tens of thousands of years, Uranus and Neptune will do their own geometric dance. There is a whole host of geometry in the sky when looking at various combinations of wandering stars. The wandering stars have many tables of classification and attributes. They also link to the days of the week, and this star shows the order too. The blanket of fixed stars all move in unison, as one, with next to no evidence of any parallax. The blanket of stars are probable to all reside at the same altitude, behind and higher than the wandering stars, and probable to be somewhere between 3,000 and 4,000 miles away from Earth. There are under 10,000 stars visible to the naked human eye, and because of the human eye's vanishing point, one can only see less than half of those from where one stands. The blanket of stars revolve around Polaris, the North Star above the central North Pole. With time-lapse we can see this, day after day, rolling out the lie of four motions. To find Polaris in the northern sky, just look for Ursa Minor or Ursa Major. From Chicago we look north, and we see the stars rotate around Polaris, and from Paris. And from near Japan. This is from southern Spain. The stars complete one cycle, stroke one revolution, every 23 hours, 56 minutes and 4 seconds, making them a little faster than the Sun, with the Moon being the slowest of the three. Here is a macro way to present these northern star trails. In real life, as it shows in Stellarium, we can see only a section of the night sky. When we move, our vanishing point also moves with us, and therefore what we can see in the sky moves with us too. We know the sky appears to the eye as a dome, but this could be due to perspective. To get a good idea of the motion of stars, we need to look in different directions. Here is from Arizona, in southern USA, looking west, looking east, looking north, and looking south. There is a ring of 12 star constellations behind the ecliptic, known as the signs of the zodiac. This is the same even if one is in Chicago, North Mexico, southern Chile, or anywhere on Earth. So if one splits the circular 360-degree ecliptic up into 12, one gets 12 times 30 degrees, each being a sign of the zodiac, which all takes 23 hours, 56 minutes and 4 seconds to revolve above us. These constellations appear upside down to people in the southern areas of Earth, for the simple reasons shown here. As the stars take 23 hours 56 minutes 4 seconds to revolve, and the Sun takes 24 hours to revolve, every 30 days or so, the Sun enters a new sign of the zodiac, and then will spend around 30 days there until the zodiac has overtaken the Sun again. This can be seen here too, with the zodiac being the outer thin ring of 12 signs. First we will move 2 hours forward a click. Then if we move 10 days forward a click, we see the zodiac speeding ahead, so the Sun therefore travels through the 12 signs of the zodiac over a solar year. Due to us knowing all of the main speeds in the sky now, here is the approximate time each luminary spends within each of the 12 signs of the zodiac. South of the equator, an observer can see a wheel in the sky to the south, spinning in the opposite direction. And here are more examples. So to get our bearings, let's look from one location. New South Wales in Australia. Looking west, looking east, looking north, where Polaris is too far away from the observer's vanishing point, and looking south. We just don't know all the answers to the luminaries' mysterium. The precession of the equinox is a real phenomena. Over 26,000 years, the whole blanket of stars completes a tiny wobble, ensuring that the exact point above the north celestial pole moves in a small, super slow circle. This is all known as the Great Year. If we go as north as possible on Earth, and look up with the equatorial grid on, Polaris is at the centre. Now if we turn the azimuthal grid on, we can see Polaris off-centre, and if we change the year by 2,000 year chunks, the whole blanket of stars moves ever so slightly. The Earth isn't moving or tilting or wobbling, it's the blanket of stars moving. This movement in the sky is very slow, 1 degree every 72 years, so 360 degrees, a full revolution, every 26,000 years. The motion of the stars is like this. The zodiac signs move in one direction on the ecliptic, but the wobble is in reverse, hence the words precession of the equinox. So recently, from the age of Taurus, through to Aries, through to the current age of Pisces, and soon into the age of Aquarius. On every spring equinox, the sunrise to the east has the current age behind it, and we are coming out of Pisces into Aquarius. And due to the 1 degree wobble every 72 years, every 2,160 years or so, humanity enters a new age. Here is the equinox sunrise for the year 4178, deep into the age of Aquarius. So the sun goes slowly through all 12 signs in reverse on the spring equinoxes, before completing the Great Year, the precession of the equinox. The astrolabe is a beautiful and intelligent device. and can be traced back to around 200 BC. It has many uses, such as the sun's path and the time of day. It's made up of 4 plates and a ruler, and together each part has specific uses for measuring, observing and calculating. The device can be used for star locations, cardinal directions, wandering star positions, sunrise and sunset, eclipses and so much more. And this still works today. Another device, the planisphere, can be traced back to the 1500s. This can display the visible stars in the sky for any time and date. And this still works as was designed. The sky is a giant calendar. The sun tells the time, the moon tells us the day, and the stars tell us the months and years. We live inside a beautiful realm, a perfectly designed timepiece, with mathematics and fractals within its fabric. The sky is the only real tangible calendar. So sit back and take in the next minute or so.